Thomas Williamson, born on April 23, 1831, in Mackinac Township, Illinois, was one of 5 children in the wealthy household of farmer Reuben W. Williamson. Thomas described his father as a stern figure who imposed a strong work ethic on him from an early age. At just 10 years old, he began engaging in theft, committing numerous acts around Tazewell County, and frequently spending his evenings in Oakdale, where his reputation as a troublemaker grew. His criminal attempts escalated at the age of 13 when he tried to rob a store in Peking, resulting in his arrest and brief incarceration in the local penitentiary. However, he was acquitted after a trial several weeks later. In the ensuing years, Thomas alternated between working for his father and uncle, with intermittent spells of incarceration, including a week in jail for horse theft in Centralia. Following his release, seeking new direction, he joined the Union Army, believing that military life might offer a positive change. He enlisted in the 7th Illinois Infantry Regiment and spent most of his service stationed at Bald Knob. Upon an honorable discharge, he returned to Mackinac Township, engaging in various odd jobs that yielded substantial profits. Eventually, he enlisted in the 108th Illinois Infantry Regiment, deployed to Tennessee. During this time, he resumed his thieving ways, stealing small items such as pocket watches from fellow soldiers. According to his own account, he participated in significant battles like the Siege of Vicksburg, Siege of Corinth, the Red River Battle, the Battle of Gettysburg, the Battle of Lookout Mountain, and numerous others. Following the war's end, he returned to Illinois. In 1868, Williamson, accompanied by his brother-in-law Shivler and a friend named Harkett, made their way to the residence of an elderly German man named August Koch in Delavan, intending to spend the evening playing cards together. As the night wore on and alcohol flowed freely, a dispute erupted between the trio and Koch, who accused them of cheating. In response, with the assistance of Shivler and Harkett, Williamson ended up killing Koch, and together they concealed the body beneath the house they were in. Shortly after, Shivler and Harkett were apprehended. Thomas managed to evade capture for a brief period before eventually being caught in Springfield. All 3 men received death sentences, yet a last-minute intervention by his attorney led then-Governor Richard J. Oglesby to commute their sentences. Williamson served 11 years in prison, diligently working overtime to earn money. He was released on April 1, 1879, only to return to Mackinac Township to discover his father had passed away. After working for Mr. Orndorff, he relocated to Missouri, where he traveled around Missouri and nearby Kansas, engaging in various minor criminal activities. In January 1877, Williamson wed 57-year-old Suzanne Kirk in Centralia, Missouri. Despite their contentment as a couple, poverty compelled them to wander Missouri, selling goods to whoever showed interest. The following year, they encountered Dr. Middleton, who suggested they head to Sedalia, where the mayor, Cole Crawford, might provide suitable work. By the fall of 1889, they resided in a log cabin 6 miles outside of Sedalia, but later vacated it around September or October. While Williamson sought employment in the city through odd jobs, his wife mysteriously disappeared. When asked about her whereabouts, Thomas claimed she had gone to visit relatives in Calhoun, Illinois, and would return soon. Her prolonged absence led Williamson to assert that she had died of renal colic during her stay in Illinois. Unable to afford the transportation of her remains, he arranged for her burial there. Though some found his story dubious, no further inquiry was made, and the matter was soon forgotten. The only person who seemed to take notice was Farmer Dan Closier, the new owner of the log cabin, to whom Williamson explicitly mentioned not to disturb a specific spot on the property, citing he had planted parsnip there. At a later point, Williamson became associated with the local Salvation Army branch, finding shelter there. Being unemployed, he sought work around town and eventually secured a position as a farmhand on the Moore's farm owned by 59-year-old Jefferson Moore and his 29-year-old son Charles. In the early days of May 1890, Charles suddenly went missing, but little attention was given to his disappearance. A week passed, during which Jeff purchased rails from a neighbor, John Brennick, promising prompt payment. When Jeff failed to show up on the agreed date, Brennick visited the Moore farm only to find Jeff absent. Williamson was on the premises, and when questioned about Jeff's whereabouts, he claimed ignorance. This response raised suspicion among Brennick and other neighbors, especially considering that the day before, Thomas had been observed transporting soil to the house for undisclosed reasons. Concern grew, leading to the organization of a search party to locate Jeff Moore. Meanwhile, local police received alerts about an elderly man's suicide attempt in Citrus Park having consumed a fatal dose of strychnine. 4 officers rushed to the park, discovering Thomas Williamson barely alive on the ground. He was swiftly taken to the Salvation Army barracks, where he received antidotes and eventually recovered. When questioned about his suicide attempt, he expressed being tired of living and yearned to meet God. Shortly after his suicide attempt, during the search on the Moore farm, Jeff's body was unearthed buried in the cellar. Later that day, Charles's body was also discovered buried in one of his father's fields. Both men had suffered fatal blows to their skulls with an axe. Locals swiftly connected the dots, pointing fingers at Williamson for the crime. He was promptly arrested and held in the county jail to shield him from potential lynching. Resurfacing rumors about his wife's death prompted Dan Closier and another neighbor to investigate the log cabin and excavate the spot forbidden by Williamson. There, they uncovered the preserved remains of Susan, found curled up in the fetal position. Her body was taken to the coroner, and upon suspicion of a suspicious demise, further inquiries were made in town. The subsequent inquest led the jury to unanimously conclude that all 3 victims had fallen prey to Thomas Williamson's hands. He was soon to stand trial for the killings. While awaiting trial, Williamson confessed to killing the Moores, but asserted he had been paid $300 to commit the act. Responding to these allegations, Jeff Moore's ex-wife and son William faced arrest but were later released due to insufficient evidence. Preceding his trial, Williamson altered his stance, asserting that he was only an accomplice involved in burying the bodies and intended to plead guilty to that charge, not to the murders. On November 30th, 1890, Thomas was formally indicted for the murders of Jeff and Charles Moore. Speaking to reporters, he appeared indifferent, admitting he hadn't read the indictment, hinting at hopes for an acquittal on all charges. Justice Ryland ordered no other trials in Pettis County while Williamson's trial was ongoing due to its high-profile nature. Following a 2-week trial, the jury found Thomas Andrew Williamson guilty, and Justice Ryland sentenced him to death. An immediate appeal was made to the Supreme Court of Missouri, which rejected further appeals from the prisoner. Williamson remained unaffected upon hearing the verdict. His attorney appealed to the Supreme Court of the United States, seeking the reversal of the Pettis County verdict and a new trial. The appeal was granted, temporarily postponing Williamson's execution as per standard procedures. On June 30th, the Supreme Court upheld Williamson's guilt, sentencing him to hang on October 31st. When questioned by reporters about the decision, Williamson appeared unperturbed, expressing his readiness to face his fate and meet his maker. On October 22nd, he wrote to Governor David R. Francis, requesting a public hanging. On the day of his execution, moments before 10 o'clock, Thomas Williamson ascended the scaffold, admitting to his crimes to those present. His final words were reportedly, "I should have been hanged 30 years ago." The noose was tightened, the black hat placed over his head, and before pulling the lever, the sheriff wished for God's mercy on Williamson's soul. The trapdoor was released, and within 16 minutes, the murderer was declared dead. With no one claiming the remains, Thomas Andrew Williamson was laid to rest in a potter's field. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing by clicking the red subscribe button below. And don't forget to ring that notification bell so you never miss an update. Your support means the world to us. Please give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.